on the bones of Elisha. If there's anything that it can do, just ask the stone that was rolled at the tomb in the garden. What happens when God says to move? And I feel him moving it now. I feel him doing it now. I feel him doing it now. Do it now. Do it now. This is the sound of dry bones rattling. This is the praise, make the dead man walk again. Hey, open the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. Open the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. Open the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. This is the sound of dry bones rattling. I hear the sound. 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 And the bones began to rattle. I can hear those bones rattling. God send me, God send it. Hear the word of the Lord, and this is what He says: live, live, live. Dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. Live, live, live. Dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. Live, live, live. Dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. Live, live, live. Dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. Live, live, live. Dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. Live, this is the sound of dry bones rattling. This is the praise, make a dead man walk again. Open the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. Open the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. Open the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. This is the sound of dry bones rattling. Dry bones rattling.
Hello, church family. My name is Danielle Johnson, and it is my privilege to get to welcome you here today on this July long weekend. First things first, if you are new or newish to Kamloops Alliance Church, would you consider texting the word new to the number on the screen? We just consider it such a privilege that you have joined us, that you have trusted us with a portion of your weekend. And so we would love to send you a coffee shop gift card so that you can enjoy a beverage on us. We are also also committed to keeping you up to date on everything happening at Kamloops Alliance Church, and there is a lot happening in this church. So we send out a weekly text message complete with details and events so that you have everything that you need right at your fingertips. If you would like to receive that text message, would you consider texting the word connect to the number on the screen? If you are not a texting kind of person and you prefer paper, you can pick up a paper bulletin at guest services in the foyer, or you can also visit our website at kac.ca/events. We would love to see your summer filled with opportunities to connect with others and grow in your faith. So the list on the left-hand side of the screen shows you a sample of the ways that you can do so over the next couple of months. So we have Summer Youth beginning July 6th in Riverside Park. We have the KAC Women's Ministry team hosting a walking group July 8th. And we also have Primetime in the Park July 17th for those ages 55 and up. If you want to learn more about those events, you can visit our website at kac.ca/events. On June 19th, we sent out a group of youth and young adults to Pine House, Saskatchewan for a youth and young adults exchange. Their desire, their hope was to build relationships with people in Pine House, to encounter new cultures, and to spur on the good news of Jesus. We welcome them back on June 26th, and it has been exciting to hear how God used that time to impact their lives and how excited they are to welcome a group coming from Pine House to Kamloops and to KAC in August. We also just released a documentary showing the ways that Jesus is transforming lives in Pine House, Saskatchewan. You may remember seeing that during our Us Together conference or during our Us Together weekend. If you haven't, here is a sneak peek of what you can expect in that documentary.
I never sobered up all weekend. I was constantly drunk, in and out. I just blurted out, I said, God, I don't know who you are, but please take this away from me. And he just healed me instantly. I just felt a warmth go through my body, and I never drank again. I accepted the Lord, and my life has changed.
Jesus saw Alfred as a broken man that needed fixing. But now he sees Alfred as a loving compassion. I'm not a victim no more. I'm a light. I'm thankful for God taking the hate out of my life.
I'm so amazed at what God took from the anger, the alcohol. He's seen peace. He's seen joy. Oh, that's the amazing part, is just like the difference I've seen in him.
I preach on the radio, and I would tell them, and if Christ was to be the center of our community, it won't be perfect, but our culture would flourish. Many people would change. Drugs would go down, because that's my Jesus.
People are sober now. People are laughing, and there's still other stuff, but we just keep going. And now we see our own people speaking their own language and teaching their own people. What a joy.
So as I said, we have now made the full documentary available. You can access it on our YouTube page. You can also access it on the homepage of our website. I want to take a moment to acknowledge that you may have noticed more cameras in the sanctuary over the past few months. And you have so because we are moving towards a live stream only model for our weekend gatherings, where we're not recording portions of our service in advance. And we are doing so, we're moving towards a live stream only model because it allows us to create a more immersive real-time experience for those who engage with our content online, and we continue to maintain a strong online viewership even after COVID, and it allows us to create greater efficiencies in our production process, which allows us to create more content at greater speeds, which allows us to reach a broader audience, and it allows us to continue to equip you well. But we know that the increase in cameras in the sanctuary either feels like a great opportunity to sneak in your 15 minutes of fame, or it makes you a little bit nervous. And so I want to acknowledge and state that the cameras in the sanctuary are all pointing directly to the stage. We do not point into the congregation, and the same thing applies for our photography team in the sanctuary. So if you have questions about that, you want to talk to somebody about that, you can reach out to us at hello@kac.ca. Here at KAC, we have a bold and audacious vision to see all people become fully devoted followers of Christ, and we are grateful for those who continue to fuel this vision through the act of sacrificial giving of their finances, because it's your help and your support that allows us to do things like the Pine House Youth and Young Adults Exchange. And so if you want more information on how you can partner with everything that God is doing in and through this church, you can visit our giving page on our website at kac.ca/giving, or you can reach out to our finance team personally at finance@kac.ca. Now we ask that you would get up and you would greet those around you. Maybe you greet somebody you don't know, and we hope that you enjoy the rest of the service.
I believe what you started by the power of your mighty love. You will make all things new. Jesus, you will make all things new. So sing, sing, the Lord is our deliverer. Yes, sing, sing, the Lord is our deliverer. Oh, so sing, sing, the Lord is our deliverer. His love will never fail. Oh, so sing, sing, the Lord is our deliverer. Oh, sing, sing, the Lord is our deliverer. Oh, so sing, sing, the Lord is our deliverer. His love will never fail. So let hope arise. Let hope arise. In the middle of the darkness, the light of the world has come. You will make all things new. Finish what you started by the power of your mighty love. You will make all things new. Jesus, you will make all things new.
Good. Well, welcome here, everyone. Thanks for joining us this weekend. If you don't know me, my name is Cody, and I'm a little bit biased, but I have the best job in the world and probably the best role at KAC because I get to hang out with youth and young adults all the time. And it's great. I love it. Like Danielle said, we just spent a week in Pine House, northern Saskatchewan, with a bunch of our youth and young adults, and it was great. I think we're still all kind of like coming down from the exhaustion of that week, but it was so good. And I just want to share a little bit with you all about what that week was. First off, thank you so much for praying for us as we were gone, as we were leading up. Thank you for just your support throughout that whole time, because it was so good. We had our debrief at the end, and kind of one of the questions we went with our team was, hey, did this meet your expectations? As you thought about what you were expecting to when we came in, and the overwhelming response from everyone on the team was like, yeah, actually it met and actually exceeded our expectations. Now that doesn't mean there wasn't some challenges along the way as we thought about who we were interacting with, maybe people we wanted to see more. One of the things that one of the groups of people that we didn't see a ton of while we were there were the teenage teenage girls. And we got to learn throughout the week more and more of why that was. And I'll be honest, like a lot of it was just heartbreaking. So heartbreaking just to hear some of the stuff that their teenage girls are going through. But what we did the whole time was, while we were there, was just try to build relationships and make connections so that as we continue on with this partnership with Pine House over the next 3 years, we would just see God do big things through those relationships. And it was so good. The first kind of couple days that we were there, you know, we kind of had a few people hanging around with us. We learned that, you know, so many of their young people wouldn't even dare to step foot in the church that we were staying at and we were connected with, just because of some of the relational stuff. A lot of them come from Catholic families, and there's some tension and some rub there in that community. But as we progressed throughout the week and we just spent so much time hanging out with them, we invited them all to the Sunday service that our team got to be a part of, and it was full of all the young people that we were hanging out with all week. And what's better, yeah, that's so good. But what was better than just having bodies in the church, which is never the end goal, was that we got to have elders from Pine House and young people from Pine House in circles in that service, praying with each other, and for what Pine House could look like if the young people and the elders there worked together to grow Jesus in that community. It was so cool. There's so many stories we could share, so I'd love to share more of those later, but again, just thank you so much for your support there as we went on, and as we come and look forward to August, excited to have them with us. We still don't know who they're all going to bring, but we've got people that were like, hey, I think this kid should come. I think God has something really good for this kid as he continues the journey. So it was really good. So many more stories we could share, but thank you so much, and we'll get some more of that coming out later. Also, today is like the beginning of the summer, and so for a lot of our young people, that means the beginning of another season of camp ministry. So we've got a lot of young people that are working or volunteering at any number of the camps here in our region, so Eagle Bay, Sunnybreak, Gardam Lake. Just a great ministry throughout the summer that our young people get to take advantage or get to take a part in. Some on staff, some doing their volunteer and their student leadership programs, others just going as campers. I'm actually heading out there this afternoon to Eagle Bay for the week to speak there. And so I just want you guys to all know, like whether it's Pine House or it's camp ministry, man, God is doing a big thing in our young people. And it's so exciting because as the youth pastor here, my hope and prayer and what I sense is that as we, work towards renewal and we pray and we hope towards renewal, that it's going to happen through our young people. And we saw that in Pine House, like the people who are there that are like maybe excited and who are going to lead that community as well, man, it's their young people. And we met a young girl there too. I got to share this. A young girl, as we were praying, we're like, God, there's already someone here who's going to help pave the way. And we met a young adult girl who we're in conversations with and exploring, like, what does it look like to bring her here to help give her some training so that she can actually go do what this community longs for in her own community. So God has a great plan for our young people, and let's just continue to pray. So pray with me for our young people as we head into the summer. God, thank you so much for who you are, for your love and your care. God, I believe that you want to do a great thing, that you are going to do a great thing. God, as the psalmist writes, I remain confident that we will see your goodness in our land. Here in Kamloops, at the many camps that are running this summer, and in Pine House and throughout our nation. So God, I just want to pray for all those who will be leading in those areas this summer, that it would be a transformative moment for them in their journey with you, but also that they would get to see you work in ways in students and other young people that just give them more hope for the future. So Jesus, as you are always working, would we just continue to walk in step with you, leaning into where it is that you're calling us to be. Thank you, God. Your name. Amen. I realized I forgot to show this. There's a picture. That's Pine House. Just some of the thoughts we had to go. We just did a lot of fun. Beautiful country. Hey, one of the things I learned in Pine House, Saskatchewan is not all farmland. Like, my mind was like, well, we came into Saskatoon, just flat land. You can see to Ontario. We got north, and it was like, wow, there's lakes and trees, and minus the mountains, it's almost like where I grew up. But it's just a beautiful, beautiful country. So that's a little bit of Pine House. We can talk more about that later. Today, we are going to jump into our new series called Under the Sun, which is a journey through the book of Ecclesiastes, which is a great book. Honestly, it's such a great little book. It has so much to teach us. Unfortunately, it's one of the least explored books, I feel like, in the church, but it has so much to teach and challenge us. So I'm really excited for what's going to come in this summer. A couple years ago, we spent the entire year going through Ecclesiastes with our students. That's a long time to go through Ecclesiastes, but it was so good. You see, we figured that our students are at an age where they're trying to figure out all the big questions to life, right? Trying to figure out who they are, where they belong, and what purpose they have, what difference could they make. And at the time we did it, we were actually coming out of like the 2 years of COVID, where we were shut down, we were locked down, and life had been completely upended. And so we were like, hey, this is actually a great time for us to lean in with this book that can teach us so much about what is actually reality and what we really should be focusing on in our life. Because Ecclesiastes really is just a philosophical journey, exploring all the big questions that we have. Where do we find fulfillment? Where do we find meaning? And so throughout this summer, we're going to be looking at a number of the different passages, a number of the different texts, what the author kind of leads us through, exploring exploring questions like, what's the point of pursuing wisdom, of gaining knowledge, of living in constant indulgence, of just trying to do all the recreation we can. What's the point of living safe lives? What's the point of living respectable, knowledgeable, and hardworking lives? You know, we'll be exploring a little bit about what the point of trying to control everything in our lives, balance schedules, all that. To what end do we strive and work so hard for these? And you see, this is really just ponderings that all of us have. Whether you're a follower of Jesus here or you're not, you're just checking him out. We all have to answer these questions. We all think about these questions. What is the point of life? What is the point of this time? And you see, Ecclesiastes is a book that really grapples with reality. And the thing is that reality is really complex for all of us. It's so complex. And I love how Chu Leon Su kind of sums up the whole book of Ecclesiastes. This is a long one, so bear with me. It's really good. Just a good sum of where we're going to go this summer. He writes, "Humanity is set in a world over which mortals have no control. It is a world that is full of inconveniences, inconsistencies, and contradictions. Nothing that human beings do or have is ultimately reliable. Not wealth, not pleasure, not wisdom, not toil, not life itself." He writes, "There are no fail-safe rules, no formulas to guarantee success. Justice may be found where one might expect it. People may not get what they deserve. There is no telling who will have a good life and who will not. And even if one has a good life one moment, it may be gone in the next. It is an arbitrary world in which human beings live, one that is full of risks but no guarantees. Social, economic, and political forces are at work creating uncertainties to which everyone is subjected." He wraps up with, "There are dangers in daily life too, as accidents happen even amid life's routines. Some amount of wisdom may help reduce the risk, but accidents happen. This is what it is like under the sun." So what really is the point? What really is the value? You see, that is that's where we get to the heart of Ecclesiastes, that the author really wants to show us. Is that in the middle of all that is life, we can encounter God. And we can experience what he has to offer us. And so today is going to be all about setting us up for the journey that we're going to be on for the rest of the summer. We're going to look at the first 11 verses of chapter 1, and one of the things that we're going to see as we jump in is that the invitation of Ecclesiastes is to shift our lifestyle and mindset from simply being here and now to one that has eternity in perspective as we journey with and towards Christ. So, grab your Bibles, turn to Ecclesiastes chapter 1, and we're going to be going through the first 11 verses together. So, we open up. Ecclesiastes 1. I'm going to just warn you, throughout the whole summer, there's going to be things that we're going to cover, and you're going to be like, man, that's so depressing. That's how I feel sometimes when I read Ecclesiastes, but there's great hope. There's great hope even as we read through this. So, Ecclesiastes 1, the words of the teacher, son of David, king of Jerusalem. Right off the get-go, we want to talk a little bit about the authorship of this book. And now, some of you may be wondering why, because you look at this and you go, it's pretty clear. It's the words of a teacher, it's the son of David, it's the king in Jerusalem. It's wisdom literature. Sounds like Solomon. Sounds like Solomon. Obviously, the answer has to be Solomon. And hey, that's totally fine. If that's where you want to land, that's totally great. That you would be right along the lines with the ancient tradition and where this authorship was given. That it was something that Solomon wrote in his old age as he reflected on his life and just everything that he saw and learned in his life. But there are some questions. There are some people who say, hey, maybe Solomon didn't actually handwrite it. Maybe he just spoke it to someone and someone else wrote it. Again, which is fine. If you are like, hey, Solomon's my guy for Ecclesiastes, that is totally good. However, one of the things we do need to explore is that more and more there are people who are way smarter than me that have been examining this whole book of Ecclesiastes and going, maybe it's not Solomon. And much of this debate has come because of the language that is used. Much of this debate has come by just how it was written, the way it was written. One of the things is that Solomon could definitely speak to the king part of this book, but what about the parts of the book that speak more about the ordinary life? Would he really have been able to do that? The language is the big one, though. So many people who are way smarter than me are actually pointing towards this being something that was written in a post-exilic time versus a pre-exilic time, which just lost most of you. So here, I got chart, because charts are great. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit of history lesson of Israel. So you got like the times of the judges, you got Saul, you got David's reign, you got Solomon's name, you got the divided kingdom, you got the exile, and you got the return of the exile. So there are people who would go, right, it had to have been here when Solomon was in his reign, just before he died. But there's other people who are going, actually the language used was right here, which is a very long time after Solomon would have died. And so there are thoughts out there that go, hey, because of the language that was used, Solomon, who died here, could not have written it here. And so that is just one of the things that we want to consider as we go into it, that maybe Ecclesiastes was actually authored by someone who just loved to gather wisdom. So the word teacher in verse 1 can be translated to koeleth, which stands for teacher, and it's referred to as someone who just loves to gather wisdom, loves to learn, loves to teach. And so you get the sense that it's someone who probably would have lived enough to see how kings lived, but also ordinary enough to know how what some of the plights of the ordinary people of the time and struggles of the people of the time would have been. So could it have been Solomon? Sure. Possibly. Could be. Could it have been some random anonymous author like the book of Hebrews? Yep. Sure. Possibly. That's more where I would tend to lean. And throughout our time here, I'm not going to be referring to Solomon in it, but rather the teacher or the author or koeleth. And look, you can hold to Solomon if that's where you land too. And look, it's fun to kind of like nerd out for a bit on like the authorship of the book. We do this because it's actually good for us to step back and think about what we're reading and not just always go, all right, read it, done. to ask those questions about what is actually going on in the text. Again, we have another book like Hebrews where we don't know who wrote it. But what is important as we do this is that we not get so fixated on who that we forget what. You see, the major focus of Ecclesiastes is not about pinpointing who exactly wrote it, but going, what did this person write? Because that's what's important for us. So, with that in mind, let's continue through the text. Ecclesiastes 1 verse 2, meaningless, says the teacher, utterly meaningless, everything is meaningless, it's just a big waste of time and life is depressing. Really? Coeleth, everything's meaningless? Everything's pointless? Living a life well? Meaningless? Working hard? Meaningless? Learning? Meaningless? Right later on in the book, he says, look, live good and lives that are full of joy. Is that really meaningless? Other translations use futility or vanity. But again, what does that mean? What does that mean for us? What I think is actually important for us to understand what he's really saying is to get into the original language. So, the word used in meaningless is the Hebrew word haval, or haval. You decide how you want to say it. Haval. And what this word means when it's actually translated is that it's a mist. It's a vapor. It's like a breath. So everything is habal. It's a mist. It's a vapor. It's a breath. It's like that thing. It's like the exhale of your breath that you can see. That's only visible when it's cold. That's what he's saying everything is, that it's invisible, everything is inconsequential, and just like the breath you can only see when it's cold, right? Like we kind of get that a little bit in Kamloops. I live where it's really cold, right? Where you step outside and it's like, why am I outside today? And you can actually like see your breathing all the time. That's what they're saying. That's kind of like the imagery we want to have in this moment as we think of the word habal, because it refers to something that is superficial, something that is inconsequential, something that is inconsistent, it's unsubstantial, it's ephemeral, short-lived. It can't be grasped or controlled. So he's saying everything is a mist, everything is a vapor, everything is temporal. It does not last. And with that in mind, he goes into verse 3. What do people gain for all their labors as they toil under the sun? So when he's saying what do they gain, he's saying what advantages come from all their work, all their struggle, everything that happens under the sun, everything that happens in this time, this lifetime. What do they gain, right? If everything is chabal, what is the point? If everything is fleeting, what advantages can really be gained? Right? What do you really gain by striving so hard to achieve certain results, like a crisp high five and an attaboy, a promotion or a raise, a work towards an easy retirement? Sure, it's not going to last. What do we gain by working so hard to have control over every little bit of part of our life, like an organized schedule? Hey, I'm a control freak. I love having an organized schedule. Going to Pine House, I struggled with that because it was not very organized. Right? Trying to control that. Maybe it's like financial security, that balanced life. Like, what do we really gain by pursuing all of this, working so hard, hustling and grinding? To what end? To what end is all this for? The striving and always striving but never satisfied. Right? That's what he's saying. He's like, what do you actually gain? It's this rhetorical question where he's like already going, look, the answer is nothing. You gain absolutely nothing. There is no advantage. Why? Because it's all chabal. It's all temporal. It's all fleeting. There's no real lasting meaning to any of it, to the grind and the hustle. Why? Because he continues on in verse 4 to 8. The generations come and go. Talking about how humanity, the cycles of humanity. Look, the human experience, I'm going to boil it down really quick for you guys. We're born, we live, we die. It's all Chabal. And that has been repeated since the start of humanity, over and over and over and over again, right? Like if you zoom in, you can see how different generations have had like a moderate impact, but if you zoom back out to the perspective of reality, which is eternity, you see that, man, it's so minor. There's nothing that is gained. And he goes into how not just humanity, but even with creation, right? The sun rises, the sun sets. It hurries back to where it is. It's over and over and over again. Since the beginning of creation, the sun has done that. The wind blows to the south and turns to the north. Round and round it goes, ever returning on its course. The wind can't control it, can't contain it. It just happens. Over and over and over again. It doesn't bring lasting value. It doesn't bring lasting change. It's uncontrollable and consistent. He writes about how all streams flow into the sea, yet the sea is never full. The place the streams come from, there they return to again. Thinking about the change of seasons, right? We get this. We got rivers in Kamloops, right? What do we know? Winter comes, snow comes. Spring comes, snow melts. River rises, flows. Summer comes, sinks. Fall comes, gets colder. Maybe we start to see our breath. Winter comes, snow. On and on and on and on again. That's the cycle. So he's showing us that, look, like everything just happens in a constant cycle as it has always and will always do. It just gets repeated over and over and over again. Is there really any advantage, any real gain? In verse 8, he writes, all things are wearisome, more than one can say. The eye never has enough of seeing, nor the ear its fill of hearing. Again, making us think about how we operate in this life. The eye never sees enough. Right? What is he trying to get us to think about here? Man, how many more experiences do you really need? How many more trips? How many more sports? How many more whatever? Will it ever actually bring you the satisfaction you desire? The ear is always hearing, thinking about knowledge. Will you ever be able to take in enough knowledge? Will you ever have enough letters behind your name? Or before, I don't actually know how that works. That you'll finally feel fulfilled and satisfied? Or is it all completely temporal? Right, I think of the old proverb that says, a jack of all trades, but a master of none, but some oftentimes better than a master of one. Which is trying to sell you on the idea that, like, hey, you can just gain all kinds of knowledge, you can gain all kinds of wisdom. It's better to have, your hands in all kinds of pots than to really master one, and that's how you'll be successful. Really? Really? To what end? To what end? You see, this happens when our focus is so close-minded and narrow-minded. Because everything is wearisome, it's busy, it's just chaotic. And one of the things I think about here is okay, I have had lots of conversations with people about the last couple of years, and during the last couple of years, one of the things I heard the most, after people kind of settled down and got used to it, was I was like, man, this new pace of life is really good. I love not being so busy. I love being able to spend more time with my family. I love this new pace of life that has changed. Everything's a little bit slower. It seems more balanced. And what I often heard after that was something along the lines of, I never want to go back to what life was like before this. The busyness, the weariness. But what really has happened? Right? What does your household, what does your family look like now? Have we become too focused on the here and now that we forget the greater reality? So Francis Chan, he's a pastor theologian. He had this great illustration that I want to walk through with us today. So you're gonna have to use your imagination. I rolled this up, not very well. Okay, so we're gonna throw that stuff over there. We're gonna throw that stuff over there. Okay, so imagine with me, everything on this side of the rope, this rope just continues on forever and ever. It doesn't end right there. It goes on forever and ever. Everything on that side is everything that has come. Everything that was in the past. Everything on this side of the rope is everything that will come. Now this black little piece in the center is your life. And often we're so focused here. When Coeleth is trying to get us to think beyond here and more about how we live here impacts greatly the rest of eternity. He's saying, look, your existence cannot be just consumed here. There's a greater invitation within this book that if this is our reality, we will only be stuck in the what do I actually gain in this life? What do I actually leave behind? When if we focus here with Jesus in perspective and the eternity that he has for us, we can actually live. So he goes on continually in verse 9. Again, he's just like calling back. What has been will always be again. What has been done will always be again, right? So everything that's been done will be done again. He's just saying everything that has been done. There's nothing new. And again, it's like, come on, dude, we know there's things new. Like Adam and Eve did not have an Apple iPhone. They were not driving cars. They didn't have computers, right? So obviously we go, well, there's new things. There's obviously new things. He's not saying that there hasn't been new technologies or new inventions. What he's saying is that the problems and the grind and the worries of life that we have today have always existed. And they always will. There's nothing new. Everything will just be repeated. If it happened before, it'll happen again. Because it's all Habal. Life will continue to be a vapor. It'll continue to be temporal. It's all Habal. There's nothing really new, and that includes legacy, right? No one remembers this is so depressing. No one remembers the former generations, and even those yet to come will not be remembered by those who follow. What does that say about legacy? That's a pretty depressing view on legacy. But we spend so much time trying to think about leaving a better future for people, trying to do what we can. And look, let me ask you, how many of you guys actually know the name of your great-great-grandparents? Your great-grandparents? I don't. And that's not that far removed. Right? So everything just continues to happen. They're not going to be remembered. Right? So what does this say about our future? What does it say about the hope we want to have for the future? Because I think we do need to hope for the future. We can have hope for the future. But often if we just focus here and now and we go, oh man, I can see where the world is at right now, and we get stressed, and we worry, and we're full of anxiety. And we're just focused right here and now. We can't imagine a better future that actually can make an impact. Right, this was me. When I was before I went towards Bible school to become a pastor, I was on my way to owning. I wouldn't go that far. I was making steps so that one day I could own my own business. The guy I was working for, we were in conversations of what it would look like for me to own my own store, and I was excited. I was like, hey, this is going to mean that I'm going to have money. This is going to mean that I'm going to have my name on something. This is going to mean that I'm going to have prestige. I'm going to have recognition. I'm going to have everything that I ever could have wanted. My life will be great. Ironically, I was more stressed and more worried and more anxious throughout that whole time, trying to get everything I could have ever thought I wanted, but never actually fully able to grip any of it. And so what Ecclesiastes is going to do is going to invite us to consider something different, to consider someone different. Look, if all of humanity is not going to be remembered because we're all temporal, we're all fleeting, we're all just a blip in the grand scheme of eternity, Ecclesiastes is going to say, well, who has lasted and who will last forever? It's going to say if there's going to be nothing new in this life, who can actually make things new? Who is it that can actually bring lasting, meaningful life and peace? It's going to invite us to realize that the better reality is one spent with Jesus. So what? Look, I think this is where we come back to how Ecclesiastes, like I just said, it invites us to move from living here and now, to change our lifestyles and our mindsets, to living from here and now, to living with all of this in perspective. And so the question we'd love to offer all of you as you come into your summer, one that's usually full of any number of adventures for you, is to consider what reality are you actually going to live in? Are you going to live here and pursue the same goals as everybody else? Living here, trying to live in a way, hoping to leave a mark that can be remembered? Are you going to live here and grip everything firmly so you can try to control and manipulate life to happen in the way you think will bring you joy and peace? Or could there be a better way? Ian Provan writes in his commentary on Ecclesiastes, there's a choice to be made now about which version of reality we will embrace and which path we will follow, and this choice has consequences for now. It also has consequences for later. For life everlasting comes not as an arbitrary add-on to just any kind of life that is lived here and now, but as the natural extension of a life that is lived with God in the present. So again, do you want to live here? When the invitation of Jesus is to, yes, live here, but thinking about here. Or do you want to live with Jesus, discovering that the quest for real life, real meaning, real purpose is actually found in him? So God, my hope this summer is that for my life, as I think about all that I have planned, that I would not lose sight of what reality really is. And that's an eternity spent with you. So my hope, God, is that that would shape how I live into every moment this summer, and that it would shape the lives of all of us here in this room. That it would not be just about grinding or hustling or working hard, striving, trying to gain some satisfaction that only you can bring. God, if everything is Chabal, let us become so fixated on you who is permanent and eternal. In your name, amen.
flame. Your love is a light that all the world will see. All the world will see. You don't give your heart in pieces. You don't hide yourself to tease us. You don't give your heart in pieces. You don't hide yourself to tease us. Your love's not fractured, it's not a troubled mind.